"Sir, my baby sister is freezing," little boy said. The CEO wrapped them in his coat and took home. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. It was a cold winter afternoon, the kind where the chill cuts through your clothes and seeps into your bones. The streets of New York City were busy, with people rushing home to escape the biting cold. But among the crowd, there was a little boy, no more than 7 years old, walking briskly, holding tightly onto his baby sister's hand. The little girl, no older than 4, was shivering uncontrollably, her thin coat barely doing anything to protect her from the freezing air. The boy, dressed in a worn-out jacket that barely fit him, kept glancing up at his sister with concern, as if trying to shield her from the cold with his small, fragile body. He could feel the chill in his own bones, but it didn't matter. He had to protect her. His shoes were full of holes, and his pants were frayed at the edges, but all he could focus on was getting her somewhere warm. They had just come from the library where they spent hours looking for books to read, but now they had to get back to the rundown apartment they called home. The little boy was desperate. His sister's teeth were chattering so loudly he could hear them over the hum of the traffic. He looked around, hoping to see a place where they could warm up, but there was nothing. Just the same cold streets, crowded with strangers. Then, as if the universe was answering his silent plea, he spotted a man walking toward them. The man looked out of place, tall, well-dressed, with a coat so thick it looked like it could protect him from any storm. His face was sharp, his features cold, but somehow approachable. The boy didn't think twice. He ran up to him, pulling his sister along. "Sir, my baby sister is freezing." The man stopped in his tracks, blinking in surprise as the boy tugged at his coat. "She's really cold. Please, can you help us?" The man looked down at the little girl, whose lips were turning blue, her face pale. His heart skipped a beat, and without a word, he took off his thick coat and draped it over both the boy and his sister. "Come with me," he said softly, his voice deep but kind. The boy was stunned, not sure whether to accept the stranger's help. But seeing his sister huddled in the warmth of the coat made him realize that they had no other choice. He nodded, taking the man's hand as they walked through the crowded streets. "I can take you somewhere warm," the man said as they walked. "You don't have to worry anymore." The boy glanced up at him, still skeptical, but the kindness in the man's eyes made him feel safe. The man led them to a sleek black car parked just a few feet away, and the boy hesitated. But when he saw the car's warm interior, his hesitation melted away. They climbed in, and the man instructed the driver to take them to his house. The boy didn't know who this man was, but something about him felt different. The warmth of the car contrasted sharply with the cold outside, and for the first time in a long while, the boy felt a sense of safety. He looked at his sister, who had fallen asleep against his shoulder, the warmth of the coat and the car finally bringing her peace. As the car pulled away, the boy realized that his life was about to change forever, though he couldn't have known it yet. This man, this stranger, wasn't just helping them because he was kind. He was about to reveal something far more incredible than the boy could ever have imagined. The car glided through the city streets, the hum of the engine a comforting sound compared to the freezing cold they had just left behind. The little boy sat quietly, his sister resting peacefully against him, her small body finally warmed by the thick coat the man had given them. He glanced out the window, watching the world pass by in a blur of lights and shadows, still in disbelief. Just a few minutes ago, they had been struggling to stay warm on the harsh streets of New York City, and now they were riding in a car that seemed to belong to another world. The man, who had been quiet for most of the ride, spoke again, his voice steady and reassuring. "You're safe now. We'll be at my place in just a few minutes. I want you both to get some rest." The boy looked up at him, still unsure about everything that was happening. Who was this man? Why was he helping them? Was there a catch? But his sister's soft breathing on his shoulder helped him relax, if only a little. The car turned onto a quieter street, and the boy saw a massive building ahead, its lights glowing brightly in the dark night. It looked like something out of a dream, large, modern, and elegant. The car pulled into a gated driveway, and the boy's heart raced. They had never been anywhere like this before. The gates opened smoothly, and the car made its way up the long driveway, the headlights reflecting off the white marble pillars that lined the entrance to the mansion. The boy had heard about places like this, but never imagined he would ever step foot in one. As the car came to a stop in front of the large front doors, the man turned to them. "This is my home," he said, his tone kind but firm. "Come inside, and we'll get you settled." The boy, still holding his sister's hand tightly, hesitated for a moment before getting out of the car. His feet barely touched the ground before the man was there, guiding them inside. The warmth hit them immediately. It was a stark contrast to the cold air outside. The walls inside were adorned with beautiful paintings and sculptures, and the floors were covered in soft rugs that felt like clouds beneath their feet. "You can make yourselves comfortable in here," the man said, motioning to a cozy living room area. There was a large fireplace crackling in the corner, and soft couches surrounded it. The boy felt his tension ease a little, though the questions still swirled in his mind. "Thank you," he said quietly, not sure what else to say. The man smiled at him, but there was a hint of something else in his eyes. "You don't need to thank me. You're here because I want to help." He motioned to a door on the side. "There's food in the kitchen, and I can show you where you can sleep. You'll be safe here." The boy nodded, unsure whether he should be cautious or let himself trust this stranger. But his sister, now asleep in his arms, had no such hesitation. She rested comfortably, her little face peaceful and calm. "I'll show you around," the man continued. "But first, let me make sure you're both warm and settled. You've been through a lot." As they walked through the grand halls of the house, the boy couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. He had never seen anything like this. The man's kindness was undeniable, but it also felt strange, too good to be true. Was he truly just being kind, or was there more to this story? They passed by a large window, and the boy stopped for a moment, staring out at the view. It was nothing like the view from their apartment, a small, cramped place they barely managed to pay for. The lights of the city stretched out below them, and for the first time that day, the boy allowed himself to relax. Just for a moment. But something in the back of his mind nagged at him, reminding him that nothing in life came without a price. Who was this man, really? What did he want from them? The boy and his sister settled into the warmth of the grand house, but the sense of disbelief hadn't left him. As he watched his sister sleeping peacefully, her face no longer pale from the cold, a whirlwind of thoughts ran through his mind. The man, who had appeared out of nowhere, had shown them nothing but kindness. But why? What was his true motive? The boy couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than just a good deed. They were strangers to him, after all. Yet, the man had gone out of his way to bring them into his home and care for them. The boy felt an uneasy mixture of gratitude and suspicion. The house was magnificent, with grand staircases and beautiful, plush furniture, but it felt almost too perfect. The more he looked around, the more the reality of it all hit him. How had they gone from struggling in the cold streets to staying in a mansion with someone they didn't know? He was snapped out of his thoughts when the man appeared again. "You look like you could use some rest," the man said, offering a warm smile. "I'll show you where you can sleep." The boy nodded silently, still holding his sister close. The man led them down a long corridor to a room at the back of the house, quiet and peaceful. The room had a large, comfortable bed with soft blankets and a cozy atmosphere. It was a stark contrast to the small, run-down apartment they used to call home. The boy set his sister down gently on the bed and tucked the blankets around her. She was so tired, and he could see that she was finally able to relax. He turned to the man, who was standing at the doorway. "Thank you," the boy said, his voice quiet. "We don't know how to repay you." The man smiled again, his eyes softening. "You don't need to repay me. Just stay here, be safe, and take care of each other. That's all I ask." There was something in the man's voice that made the boy feel like he could trust him, but he still couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something. The man had been too kind, too generous, for no reason at all. "You don't have to stay in this room," the man continued. "If you want, I can show you more of the house. There's a study, a library, whatever makes you comfortable." The boy shook his head. "We're fine," he said, glancing at his sister, who was already fast asleep. "I think we just need a little time to adjust." The man gave a slight nod, understanding. "I'll leave you to rest then. But if you need anything at all, don't hesitate to ask." With that, he left the room, closing the door softly behind him. The boy sat down on the edge of the bed, staring at the ceiling. There was so much he didn't understand, so much that didn't make sense. He had lived his whole life in survival mode, always trying to find ways to keep his sister safe, to make sure they had enough to eat and a roof over their heads. Now, it felt like everything had changed in an instant. He didn't know what this man wanted from them, but he couldn't ignore the warmth and kindness that had been shown. Slowly, he let his guard down, allowing himself to relax for the first time in a long while. As the quiet of the house enveloped him, the boy finally allowed himself to close his eyes, still uncertain of what the future held, but hopeful in a way he hadn't felt before. The next morning, the boy woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside the large window. He blinked a few times, unsure for a moment where he was. The softness of the bed and the warmth of the room felt like a dream compared to the cold and rough nights they were used to. His sister, still nestled under the cozy blankets, was sleeping soundly beside him. He sat up slowly, trying not to disturb her, and gazed around the room. The sun was streaming through the curtains, casting a golden glow over everything. He couldn't help but feel a strange sense of peace, something he hadn't felt in years. But as much as the comfort felt good, the questions were still there, lingering in his mind. Who was this man, really? Why had he brought them here? The boy stood up and went to the window, looking out at the sprawling estate. The house was like nothing he had ever seen before, so big, so grand. It was hard to believe that he and his sister, who had spent most of their lives struggling to make ends meet, were now living in such luxury. The sound of footsteps behind him broke his thoughts, and he turned to see the man standing in the doorway. "Good morning," the man said with a smile, his tone warm and kind. "I thought I'd give you some space to wake up, but I wanted to check in and see how you're doing." The boy nodded, still unsure of what to say. "We're okay," he finally said, glancing down at his sister. "She's still sleeping, but we're okay." The man walked into the room, his footsteps echoing softly on the wooden floors. "I'm glad to hear that," he said. "If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask. I know this is all a lot to take in, but I want you both to feel comfortable here." The boy looked at him, trying to read his face. He seemed genuine, but the boy couldn't shake the feeling that there was more going on than just a simple act of kindness. "Thank you," the boy said quietly. "But why are you doing this?" The man paused for a moment, then smiled again, though it was tinged with something the boy couldn't quite place. "Because I can. And because I want to help," he said. "But more importantly, I want you to understand that you don't have to worry anymore. You and your sister are safe. That's all that matters." The boy didn't know what to make of that, but something in the man's voice made him believe it. He wanted to trust him. He really did. But after everything they had been through, trust didn't come easily. "I'll let you get settled," the man said after a pause. "Take your time. I'm going to be working for a while, but we'll talk later. Just remember, you're not alone anymore." With that, he turned and left the room, leaving the boy to his thoughts. The boy walked over to the bed and sat down beside his sister, gently brushing a lock of hair from her face. She was so innocent, so unaware of the world around her. He wished he could protect her from everything. He wished he could make sure she would never have to feel the cold, never have to worry about where their next meal would come from. He stared out the window again, watching as the trees swayed in the breeze. For a moment, he allowed himself to imagine a life without fear, a life where they didn't have to struggle every day. But as the man's words echoed in his mind, the boy knew that they were still just getting started. There was something about this place, about this man, that he didn't fully understand yet. But one thing was clear. His life had already begun to change, and it was up to him to figure out how to navigate it. He turned back to his sister, who had begun to stir. It was time to take the first step into this new world, whatever it held. And maybe, just maybe, he would finally find the answers he was looking for. As the days passed, the boy began to settle into his new surroundings, though the unease in his chest never fully dissipated. Each day, he watched as the man, who had introduced himself as Mr. Carter, went about his business with the quiet grace of someone who had everything under control. Mr. Carter had shown them nothing but kindness, providing them with everything they needed: food, warmth, and security. Yet, the boy couldn't help but feel like he was living in someone else's story, like at any moment, everything would crumble. His sister, on the other hand, was beginning to enjoy the peace they had found. She ran around the house with a carefree smile on her face, something the boy hadn't seen in months. She would laugh, her tiny footsteps echoing through the grand halls, and it made his heart swell with relief. But as he watched her, he realized how much she had changed already. Her joy, her innocence, was something he had been desperately trying to protect. The house was beautiful, and the man had been nothing but generous. Yet, the boy still couldn't shake the feeling that there was something Mr. Carter wasn't telling them. He wanted to believe in the kindness he had shown, but trust was a fragile thing for someone who had been through so much. One evening, as the boy sat in the library, flipping through the pages of an old book, Mr. Carter walked in. The boy glanced up, feeling a pang of discomfort. The man's eyes were kind, but there was something unreadable about his expression today. "I thought we could talk," Mr. Carter said, his voice gentle but firm. "You've been here for a few days now, and I think it's time we have a proper conversation." The boy set the book down, his palms sweating slightly. "What do you mean?" he asked cautiously. Mr. Carter smiled, but it was a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I want to make sure you understand that this place, this home, is a place for you both to stay. But I also need you to understand that I'm not doing this out of charity. I'm doing this because I believe in helping people who deserve a chance." The boy's heart began to race. "What do you mean?" he repeated, his voice trembling slightly. Mr. Carter walked closer, sitting across from him. "I see something in you," he said, his tone softening. "I see potential. You're a smart kid, and you've been through a lot. But more than that, you have a heart. A good heart." The boy felt his chest tighten. "Why are you helping us?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Carter paused, his gaze unwavering. "Because I know what it's like to struggle," he said quietly. "I know what it's like to feel like there's no way out. I see your sister, and I see the way you take care of her. I see the love you have for her." The boy's eyes narrowed. "But why us? Why did you choose us?" Mr. Carter leaned back in his chair, his fingers lightly tapping on the armrest. "It's not about choosing, kid. It's about opportunity. You and your sister, you deserve a chance at something better. I can give you that chance." The boy stared at him, trying to make sense of his words. He had never thought about opportunity in the way Mr. Carter was describing. "I want you to know that you don't have to worry about where you'll sleep or what you'll eat. That's taken care of. What I want from you is simple. Trust. Trust that I'm doing this because I want to help." The boy swallowed hard, the weight of the conversation pressing down on him. For the first time, he allowed himself to imagine a life without the constant struggle. A life where he didn't have to worry about where the next meal would come from or whether they would have a place to stay. But then, the reality of it hit him. Was it really that simple? Could he trust this man who had given them everything, yet remained an enigma in his eyes? As the conversation ended, the boy couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Mr. Carter's offer than he was letting on. But for now, he had no choice but to take it. He had to protect his sister. He had to make sure that she would always be safe. And maybe, just maybe, this was the chance they had been waiting for. The next few days were filled with a quiet tension. The boy and his sister had adjusted to the luxuries of the mansion, but the boy still couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. While his sister happily explored the house, playing with the toys and clothes Mr. Carter had provided, the boy remained cautious. The words from their conversation lingered in his mind, echoing through his thoughts. Trust. Opportunity. These were concepts he had never fully understood. To him, life had always been about survival. Trust wasn't something you gave away freely. It had to be earned, slowly and carefully. But what if Mr. Carter was right? What if this was their chance to escape the constant struggle they had faced for so long? As he watched his sister laugh and play with the other children Mr. Carter had invited over, the boy felt a mix of emotions. He was glad she was happy, but it also hurt to see her so carefree. He had always been the one to protect her, to make sure she was safe. And yet, here she was, smiling without a care in the world, trusting someone he wasn't sure he could trust. One afternoon, as the boy sat alone in the study, Mr. Carter came in. His usual calm demeanor was replaced with something more intense, something that immediately caught the boy's attention. "We need to talk," Mr. Carter said, closing the door behind him. The boy's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" he asked, his voice tight. Mr. Carter walked over to the desk, placing a folder in front of him. "I've been keeping an eye on you," he said, his voice steady but firm. "I see a lot of potential in you. I want to offer you something." The boy's breath caught in his throat. "What kind of offer?" Mr. Carter looked at him, his eyes sharp. I want to help you get ahead. I want you to work for me. In return, I'll provide everything you need. You'll never have to worry about money again. You'll have a future." The boy stared at him, feeling the weight of the offer press down on him. He had always dreamed of a life where he didn't have to struggle, where he didn't have to worry about the next meal or rent payment. But this offer, it felt too easy, too perfect. "What's the catch?" he asked, his voice cautious. Mr. Carter smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "There's no catch. I'm offering you a chance to make something of yourself. To have a future. You're smart, you've got drive. All you need is the right opportunity. And I can give that to you." The boy felt a knot form in his stomach. It was tempting, more tempting than anything he had ever been offered before. But still, something didn't sit right with him. "Why me?" he asked, his voice quiet. "Why are you offering this to me?" Mr. Carter's gaze softened for a moment, and he leaned in slightly. "Because I see something in you that I didn't have when I was your age. I see a future in you. You remind me of who I used to be. The hunger, the ambition." The boy's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to believe Mr. Carter. He wanted to believe that this was the opportunity of a lifetime. But part of him was still unsure. "I don't know," the boy said, shaking his head. "It seems too good to be true." Mr. Carter stood up, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You don't have to decide right now," he said. "Take your time. But remember, opportunities like this don't come often. And when they do, you have to seize them." The boy looked down at the folder in front of him, his mind racing. He didn't know what to do. The offer was everything he had ever dreamed of, but there was a part of him that was still holding back. What was the real reason behind Mr. Carter's offer? What did he want in return? As the door closed behind Mr. Carter, the boy was left alone with his thoughts, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. The life he had known was over, and now he had to decide what kind of future he wanted to build. It was a choice that could change everything, and he knew it. The boy spent the next few days in a haze, replaying Mr. Carter's words in his mind over and over. He knew he had to make a decision, but the weight of it was overwhelming. The opportunity was like nothing he had ever imagined. He could have a future, a real future, one where he didn't have to constantly worry about survival. But there was still a nagging feeling in the back of his mind, a suspicion that he couldn't quite shake. The more he thought about it, the more he realized he didn't really know Mr. Carter at all. The man had been kind, sure, but what was the real cost of this opportunity? What did Mr. Carter expect in return? He hadn't given any specific details about what the work would involve, and that only made the boy more uneasy. Was it just about work, or was there something more? The boy tried to push those thoughts away. His sister was happy. She was finally experiencing a life free from worry, free from the cold and the fear of going without. But as much as he wanted to accept the offer and give her everything she deserved, he couldn't help but feel that he was standing on the edge of something he didn't fully understand. One afternoon, as the boy was sitting in the living room, his mind racing with doubt, he saw Mr. Carter again. The man approached him, his face calm, but there was something different in his eyes, a glimmer of expectation. "Have you thought about my offer?" Mr. Carter asked, sitting down next to him. The boy nodded slowly, his heart pounding. "Yes, I've been thinking a lot about it," he replied, his voice low. "But I'm not sure." Mr. Carter didn't seem surprised. He just watched the boy quietly, his eyes searching, as if he were waiting for the boy to open up. After a long silence, the boy finally spoke. "I don't know what you want from me. I don't understand why you're doing this. You're offering me everything, but I don't know what I'll have to give in return." Mr. Carter's expression softened, and for a moment, the boy saw something resembling compassion in his eyes. "I understand your hesitation," Mr. Carter said. "But I'm not asking for anything unreasonable. All I'm asking is for you to trust me, to take a chance. You're a smart, capable young man. I see potential in you, and I want to help you realize it." The boy shook his head, frustration rising in his chest. "You don't get it," he said, his voice tight. "I've never been given anything for nothing. Nothing in my life has come without a price. So I don't know how to trust that this is just about helping us." Mr. Carter looked at him for a long moment, as if considering his words. Then he spoke, his voice quieter than before. "I'm offering you a chance to have something more. Not just for you, but for your sister too. I know you've worked hard to take care of her, to protect her. But sometimes, you need help. And that's what I'm offering. A chance to step into a life where you don't have to worry every day. A chance to have a future." The boy felt a lump form in his throat. He wanted so badly to believe Mr. Carter, to believe that this was their chance. But it felt like a leap of faith that he wasn't ready to take. "What happens if I say no?" the boy asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Carter smiled, a small, understanding smile. "Then you walk away, and I'll never ask again. No pressure, no strings attached. But I'm giving you a choice, because I believe you deserve one." The boy looked down at his hands, the weight of the decision heavy in his chest. He thought about his sister, her smile, the way she had started to bloom in this new world. He thought about the future that Mr. Carter was offering him, a life without fear, a life where they could have what they needed. It was everything he had ever dreamed of. And yet, the fear of the unknown, the fear of making the wrong choice, held him back. "I'll think about it," the boy said, his voice thick. Mr. Carter nodded, standing up. "Take all the time you need. But know that the opportunity is here, right now. It's up to you to decide." As Mr. Carter left the room, the boy sat in silence, his mind racing. He had a choice, the hardest choice of his life. And whatever he decided, his future would never be the same. The boy spent the next few days in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. He couldn't stop thinking about Mr. Carter's offer, but every time he thought he was ready to make a decision, doubt crept back in. The idea of a future without fear, without the constant struggle for survival, was so tempting. He had always dreamed of it for himself and his sister, a life where they didn't have to worry about where they'd sleep, what they'd eat, or whether they'd make it through the month. But something about Mr. Carter's words still made him uneasy. The man had been kind, too kind, but there had to be more to it. There was always a price. On the fourth evening after their conversation, the boy found himself sitting alone in the mansion's library, the soft light from the chandelier casting long shadows on the bookshelves. His sister had gone to bed early, exhausted from another day of exploring the house. The boy tried to read, but his mind wouldn't focus. His thoughts kept circling back to Mr. Carter's words. "You don't have to decide right now. But the opportunity is here." What did that mean for him? What was the right thing to do? Was this really their chance? Or was it just another trap disguised as kindness? The more he thought about it, the more the fear of making the wrong decision gripped him. What if he said no and lost everything? What if he said yes and found out too late that there was a hidden cost? His hands tightened around the book in his lap as he stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the night was calm, the sky clear, and the city lights twinkled in the distance. For a moment, the boy closed his eyes, letting the stillness wash over him. He wanted to protect his sister. He wanted to give her the world, to make sure she never had to struggle again. But what if this choice, this one decision, could give them both a better future? The boy's mind was racing when he heard the sound of footsteps approaching. Turning, he saw Mr. Carter standing in the doorway, watching him with quiet interest. "I know you've been thinking," Mr. Carter said, his voice soft but direct. "And I can see you're still unsure. I won't pressure you, but I want you to know that I'm here to help. This isn't about me. It's about you and your sister." The boy felt a wave of frustration build inside him. He had been thinking about this nonstop for days, trying to figure out what the right choice was. And yet, the more he thought, the more it felt like there were no easy answers. "I don't know what to do," the boy admitted, his voice tight. "I'm scared. I've never had someone offer me something like this before. It feels like I'm giving up everything just to take what you're offering." Mr. Carter stepped into the room, his expression thoughtful. "You're not giving up anything," he said. "You're gaining everything. I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm asking you to take a chance on something better. But I can't make the decision for you. You have to decide what's right for you." The boy felt his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing on him more than ever. He looked at Mr. Carter, searching his face for any sign that this wasn't what it seemed. But all he saw was a man who genuinely wanted to help. It wasn't the answer he had expected. It wasn't the black and white decision he had hoped for. But in that moment, he realized something. The future was never guaranteed. Nothing in life was certain, not even the kindness of strangers. But maybe, just maybe, this was their chance to change their lives. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, it was okay to take a leap of faith. "Okay," the boy said, his voice steady but unsure. "I'll take the chance." Mr. Carter's expression softened into a smile, and for the first time, the boy saw the man's sincerity. "I knew you'd make the right choice," Mr. Carter said, his voice filled with quiet pride. "Now let's get started." As Mr. Carter walked toward the door, the boy stood there, his heart still racing, but for the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope. This was the start of something new, something he had never imagined possible. It was a risk, yes, but it was also a chance. And maybe that was all he needed to begin again. Weeks passed, and the boy slowly began to adapt to the new life that Mr. Carter had offered. The mansion, once a place of uncertainty and overwhelming luxury, started to feel like home. His sister was thriving, her laughter echoing through the halls, and the boy found himself slowly shedding the heavy weight of worry that had always defined his life. But despite the peace he now felt, the boy couldn't help but feel the shift in his own life, his own purpose. Every day, he worked hard, learning the ropes of the business world, a world he had never known. Under Mr. Carter's mentorship, he began to realize that his potential was not just about surviving. It was about thriving, about building something meaningful. Mr. Carter had given him the chance to change the course of his life, and the boy was determined not to waste it. He wasn't just learning about business. He was learning about himself, his strengths, his weaknesses, and the kind of person he wanted to be. He was no longer just the boy trying to survive for his sister. He was becoming someone who could create a future for them both. One evening, after a particularly challenging day, the boy found himself standing by the large window in his room, looking out over the city. The night was quiet, the stars faintly visible against the dark sky. He thought about where he had come from, the cramped apartment, the constant struggle for food, the fear of not having enough. It seemed like a lifetime ago, and yet, as he stood there, he realized that he wasn't the same person anymore. The boy had grown. The house, the opportunity, and the chance that Mr. Carter had given him were all part of a bigger transformation. He no longer felt trapped by his circumstances. He had a choice. The weight that had once felt so heavy had lifted, and in its place was something new, hope. The sound of footsteps behind him brought him out of his thoughts. Turning around, he saw Mr. Carter standing in the doorway, his usual calm demeanor unchanged. "You've come a long way," Mr. Carter said, his voice filled with quiet pride. "I knew you had it in you." The boy smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Thank you," he said softly, "for everything." Mr. Carter walked into the room, standing beside him. "This is only the beginning," he said. "But you've proven that you're ready for what's ahead." The boy nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over him. "I'm ready," he said, his voice steady. Mr. Carter gave him a nod of approval. "Good," he said. "Now, let's build that future together." The boy glanced over at his sister, who was in the next room, peacefully asleep. She had a future now, a future filled with possibilities. And so did he. The boy realized that his life had changed not because of luck or chance, but because he had chosen to take a step forward, to trust in something greater than the fear that had always held him back. In that moment, he understood that the greatest gift Mr. Carter had given him wasn't just the mansion, the security, or the opportunity. It was the belief that he could create a life worth living, not just for himself, but for his sister too. As the boy stood there, looking out over the city, he knew that the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. But it was a journey he was no longer afraid to take. For the first time in his life, he saw a future full of possibility, and he was ready to face it, no matter what came next. In this emotional journey of transformation, we dive into one of the most touching millionaire stories that reveals how a struggling boy and his sister found hope and a new life through the unexpected kindness of a wealthy stranger. The boy, struggling with poverty and uncertainty, is offered a chance at a new beginning by a millionaire who sees his potential. As the boy grapples with trust and fear of the unknown, he must decide whether to accept the opportunity or stay in the familiar, yet harsh, reality he has always known. This story unfolds with moments of doubt, personal growth, and powerful decisions that ultimately lead to a brighter future. As we explore this captivating millionaire story, the boy learns that sometimes the greatest gifts come with a leap of faith. Through his mentor's guidance, he realizes that wealth is not just about money, but about the opportunities that can change lives forever. The boy's emotional journey is a true testament to the resilience of the human spirit, offering a glimpse into the heartwarming side of millionaire stories. In the end, he embraces the future with a new sense of purpose, ready to build a life not just for himself, but for his sister as well. This millionaire story leaves us with the powerful message that kindness, trust, and the right opportunity can create life-changing transformations. Witnessing the boy's growth and acceptance of his new life, we are reminded that sometimes the best millionaire stories are the ones that remind us of our own potential and the power of making bold choices for a better tomorrow.